Aloha, namaste, and welcome again to the Krishna book reading. My name is Janapati Das, and we're going to read from Krishna book chapter 2, continuing prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. And so I'm just going to get right into the kirtan meditation with me. Feel free to join with me. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Swarupananda Dharmam Saiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Swarupananda Dharmam Saiti Namine Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Haribo Nitago Nitago Haribo Haribo Nitago Nitago Haribo Haribo Nitago Nitago Haribo Haribo Nitago Nitago Haribo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Haribo. So we're going to continue with our story in chapter 2. As you recall from our last time reading, this is Krishna book 8, reading 8, by the way. And if you haven't heard some of the other parts of, you can go back into my YouTube channel, like the videos, subscribe to my channel, and I have the other parts, including chapter 1 and the introduction by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So we are reading from this chapter 2, and in the story we remember that Krishna was appearing to Vasudeva and Devaki, who were in jail for just having a son who was supposed to kill the brother of Devaki, Kamsa, who was a demoniac personality. And he was so fearful he had to put his brother-in-law and sister in jail. And Krishna, of course, came to them and entered into the mind of Vasudeva, who was then transferred to the mind of Devaki and into the womb of Devaki. And so then we were going to read about what happened. So then the demigods came, all the demigods, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, all the demigods. The demigods are empowered living entities. So they're not, when we refer to them as demigods, they're actually elevated personalities, spirit souls like ourselves, but in a position of authority in the universe to operate. In other words, we have a demigod of the weather, and we have a demigod of the water, and we have a demigod of the creator of this universe, Lord Brahma, and they're all positions. And so it's not actually a personality, they're actually positions. Like you get a job as a cashier, you don't become cashier, you're still the person. So similarly, all these living entities are in these positions for a long period of time, but they will eventually move on, as we all do. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the same as his body. His body is the same as his name, as his personality. So similar. So we don't have so I'm not James, but I'm a spiritual entity, Jivatma, in the body of this person who's named James. And I'm not James. James is my label or my name, right? So Krishna is non-different than his name. And we'll get more into that later. But in the Katha Upanishad, it also cites this example of the tree of material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. This tree has two kinds of fruits, distress and happiness. Those who are living on the tree of the body are just like two birds. One bird is the localized aspect of Krishna, known as the Paramatma, and the other bird is the living entity. And so there is actually God realization in three forms. The lowest form of God realization that actually many cultures will understand is this sort of white light, the Brahma Jyoti, or an energy that comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of which all the living entities, all the Jivatmas are part of. And then there is a higher realization of the expansion of Krishna into the heart of all living entities, known as the Paramatma, or the Super Soul, which is what we're talking about in this reading. And then there is Bhagavan, which is the highest form of God realization, the personality, Krishna, Sri Krishna, as well as all living entities, is Sat Chitananda Vigraha. So it has a spiritual form of eternal bliss and full of knowledge, transcendental knowledge. So one bird is the localized aspect of Krishna, known as the Paramatma. Atma is the word that means soul or self, and para means great. And the other bird is the living entity, the Jivatma. That's us. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. Sometimes he eats the fruit of happiness. Sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self-satisfied. The Katha Upanishad states that one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. The roots of this tree extend in three directions. That means that the root of the tree is the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So these are the three modes of this, which are energies in this material manifestation, and that's a whole class by itself, so I'm not going to get really into it right now, but we will touch on it some more. Just as the tree's roots expand, so by the association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. So, briefly, because I have to preface this, but there are these energies of which everybody in this material world we experience, But also, there are also everything in this world is influenced by these three modes of material nature, including foods, type of musics that we listen to, activities that we do, and so on. And so there's our goodness, passion, and ignorance. Goodness is sort of this very peaceful, going by walking on hiking and having good thoughts about people. And then passion is a driving force. And cities oftentimes are in the mode of passion because people are sexual activity is in the mode of passion. It's a creating activity. We want to get things done. We got to hurry. We want to lift weights. And then there's ignorance, and ignorance is an energy which oftentimes is defined by laziness, lethargy, using a lots of drugs is in the mode of ignorance. Sleeping a lot. Anyway, just as the tree's roots expand, so by association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. So we're all under these influence, and we get influenced by them, and oftentimes we act in these modes, and we get pulled down into a mode of ignorance or mode of passion. The goal is to try to supersede above the modes of material passion and ignorance to the mode of goodness. The taste of the fruits are of four kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. According to the different associations in the three modes of nature, the living entities are tasting different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance, but because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. The taste of these material fruits is accepted through five senses. The five sense organs through which knowledge is acquired are subjected to six kinds of whips: lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger, and thirst. This material body, or the material manifestation, is covered by 7 layers: skin, muscle, flesh, marrow, bone, fat, and semina. The branches of the tree are 8: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. There are 9 gates in this body: the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 genital, 1 rectum. And there are 10 kinds of internal air passing within the body: prana, apana, udana, ayana, samana, etc. The 2 birds seated in this tree, as explained above, are the living entity and the localized Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna expands himself to travel consistently with the living entity while he's in this material world, trying to eat the fruits of happiness and distress, but actually trying to eat the fruits of happiness, but getting fruits of happiness and distress. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a friend who is always there guiding the living entity in whatever he wants. If he doesn't want to be with Krishna, he wants other things, Krishna provides those things to him. If he finds that, I'm not getting any happiness in this material world, eventually he'll be like, and turn his back towards his friend and surrender to Krishna, which is a natural place that we were originally in, loving surrender to Krishna when we turned our back. The root cause of this material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself and takes charge of the 3 qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the modes of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the modes of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the modes of ignorance. Brahma, by the modes of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains this manifestation by the modes of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the modes of ignorance. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And when the whole manifestation is dissolved in its subtle form as the energy of the Lord, it rests within the body of the Supreme Lord. At the present, the demigods pray, the Supreme Lord Krishna is appearing just for the maintenance of this manifestation. Actually, the Supreme Cause is one, but being deluded by the three modes of material nature, less intelligent persons see that the material world is manifested through different causes. Those who are intelligent can see that the cause is one, Krishna, as it is stated in the Brahma Samhita. Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of all causes. Brahma is a deputed agent for creation. Vishnu is expansion of Krishna for maintenance, and Lord Shiva is the expansion of Krishna for dissolution. So the material world, just like everything else, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Just like you start the day, you get up in the morning, the sun's there, and it goes and it maintains itself, and then it ends by going at the end of night. And everything else is in this material world is a beginning, a middle, and end. Similarly, there is a creation of this universe. There are creations of multiple and infinite universes coming from the body of Mahavishnu. And so in that process, there is an expansion of Krishna as Lord Brahma. In other words, Brahma comes in the story from the navel, lotus flower in the navel of Mahavishnu, who's lying down in the causal ocean, and Brahma is created. Now that's the whole story. I actually won't get quite into that yet, so we can keep reading. But Vishnu is also expansion of Krishna for the maintenance of that universe. And then when the universe needs to dissolve, Krishna expands as Lord Shiva to destroy the universe. And then all the energy is contained back into the body of Mahavishnu, including the living entities who have not decided that they want to get out of the material world and they want to surrender back to Krishna. Our dear Lord, the demigods prayed, "It is very difficult to understand your eternal form of personality. People in general are unable to understand your actual form. Therefore, you are personally descending to exhibit your original eternal form." So people say you want to see God. There's a picture of Krishna. There's God. And people see Krishna, even when he was here on this planet. People saw Krishna, but they didn't see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the seeing in spiritual life, in spiritual seeing, you see with your spiritual eyes. You don't see with your mud eyes, and that's your proof. Somehow people can understand the different incarnations of your Lordship, but they are puzzled to understand the eternal form of Krishna with two hands, moving among human beings exactly like one of them. This eternal form of your Lordship is ever increasing in transcendental pleasure for the devotees, but for the non-devotees this form is very dangerous. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very pleasing to the sadhu. It is said, "Paritranyaya sadhunam." But this form is very dangerous for the demons because Krishna also descends to kill the demons. He is therefore simultaneously pleasing to the devotees and dangerous to the demons. Our dear Lotus Eye Lord, the demigods are still praying, you are the source of pure goodness. There are many sages who simply by samadhi or transcendentally meditating upon your lotus feet and thus being absorbed in your thought have easily transformed the great ocean of nescience created by the material nature to no more than a water in a calf's hoof print. The purpose of meditation is to focus the mind upon the personality of Godhead, beginning from his lotus feet. Simply by meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages cross over this vast ocean of material existence without difficulty. So why the feet? The feet are the lowest point. In other words, in great humility, we surrender our life to the feet, to the lowest point. We surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in love. And that's the purpose of meditation. A lot of times people think, they've got, meditation is to make you kind of feel calm and, just feel kind of good or, to have certain things. But actually, you can have calm and peace by engaging in meditation, but that's not the purpose of meditation. Real meditation is to focus in love upon your consciousness, upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They continue here. O self-illuminated one, the great saintly persons who have crossed over the ocean of nescience by the help of the transcendental boat of your lotus feet, have not taken away that boat. So here's Bhaktivedanta is talking, the demigods are praying that your surrender to Krishna is the boat that takes you across the material world back to Krishna. Because the world is a huge ocean, the material world, and we've been in it for so long, for so many lives, that we're drowning in this material nature, constantly being reborn, having to deal with birth, death, old age, and disease and death over and over and over again, and suffering, great suffering. And that's because we want to. We want to try to find some kind of happiness or be our own Krishna. It is still lying on this side. The demigods are using a nice simile. If one takes a boat to cross over a river, the boat also goes with one to the other side of the river. And so when one reaches the destination, how can the same boat be available to those who are still on the other side? To answer this difficulty, the demigods say in their prayer that the boat is not taken away. The devotees still remaining on the other side are able to pass over the ocean of material nature because the pure devotees do not take the boat with them when they cross over. When one simply approaches the boat, the whole ocean of material nescience is reduced to the size of the water in a calf's hoof print. Therefore, the devotees do not need to take a boat to the other side. They simply cross the ocean immediately. Because the great saintly persons are compassionate towards all conditioned souls, the boat is still lying at the lotus feet of the Lord. One can meditate upon his feet at any time, and by doing so, one can cross over the great ocean of material existence. So the things that are so challenging and difficult in our life, but by engaging in meditation upon Krishna, by engaging in Krishna consciousness, one can cross over the material nescience. In other words, the things of this life that are so normally so stressful, we're able to maintain a equilibrium and a focus upon Krishna. That is what a man of transcendence is like. Meditation means concentration upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Lotus feet indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are impersonalists do not recognize the lotus feet of the Lord. So, just real briefly, this term impersonalists. There is a form of yogic thought, they call it Mayavadi, in which people believe that the energy, our God is one energy, and he has split himself up into many forms of living entities and also items in this world, including cars and whatnot. And so the person can, I have a hard time explaining it because it's so nonsense. They can just meditate and realize that they're God. So anyway, that's the idea. And but Vaishnavas or devotees of Krishna reject this argument because there's so many fallacies with the idea of you thinking you're God. If you're God, why do you die? If you're God, why do you have to go to the bathroom? Why do you have to stop at a stoplight? It's like you're controlled by the energy of the material energy, and the material energy is under the jurisdiction of God, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Personality, he is a person. The demigods express their mature verdict on the persons who are interested in meditating on something void or impersonal cannot cross over the ocean of nescience. So there's a lot of philosophy, including Buddhism and a lot of, sometimes even some Christian religions and whatnot, see God as this sort of like impersonal white light. Right? It's just some energy. It's not a person. Such persons are simply imagining that they have become liberated. O lotus-eyed Lord, their intelligence is contaminated. So the demigods are praying on still, because they fail to meditate upon the lotus feet of your lordship. As a result of this neglectful activity, the impersonalists fall down again into the material way of conditioned life, although they may temporarily rise up to the point of impersonal realization. Impersonalists, after undergoing severe austerities and penances, merge themselves into the Brahman effulgence, or impersonal Brahman existence. So that's that lowest form of God realization, the impersonal white light, the energy of God. So there are practices at which one can actually enter into and merge into this Brahmajyoti, but it is just a temporary existence, and eventually they are brought down again with a desire to love and be loved back into the material world. But their minds are not freed from material contamination. They have simply tried to negate the material ways of thinking. That does not mean that they have become liberated. Thus they fall down. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the impersonalist has to undergo great tribulation in realizing the ultimate goal. At the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also stated that without the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive activities. Okay, so we are going to stop there, actually, because it's a pretty long chapter. So we have about maybe 4 or 5, 6 more pages in this, and then we will get into the next chapter. The long prayers by the demigods, but it's actually a very important topic, talking about concepts of God and the difference between impersonal or what they call Mayavadi yogic thought and the Bhakti yoga. But we'll get more into that after, maybe in the next class. Lots of philosophy. It's very wonderful. So now we're going to engage in some wonderful kirtan meditation. Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur